Cast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
Alrighty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and joined as always by your co-host Kevin. Kevin, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. I am grinding the waiver wire, trying to navigate some bye weeks, a couple injuries, and a couple poor performers, and seeing what I'm going to do about just kind of shuffling things up here a little bit. See if I can't turn a couple things around in a few leagues that didn't start quite the way that I wanted them to here through 5 weeks. But that's okay. It's part of it. It's part of the grind. So, last week was not as successful as I wanted it to be. So definitely ran into a couple buzz saws and took a couple setbacks big time. So that's all right. We're back at it. We're going to do it again, and we're going to do better this week.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. It's definitely very interesting out there, and some of the performances that we saw kind of come through here in this last week, and be interesting to see how that kind of looks and works going forward. And again, the injury bug keeps biting when it comes to the NFL, and so it'll be interesting to see who's available, who's not, and the injury reports and practice reports here when we get to the Friday show and what that looks like. But any kind of news, notes, anything like that you want to hit up?
The elephant in the room is Robert Saleh getting relieved of his duties by the New York Jets. And then, as we were kind of talking, the aftermath, or the scuttlebutt, if you will, that came around after it, was Saleh was really contemplating relieving Nathaniel Hackett of his duties, and then all of a sudden, Saleh's the one who got the door, not Hackett. So, the Jets are a mess, man. They were supposed to be better with Rodgers, and we're not quite seeing it, right? So, Breece Hall has been relatively non-existent through 5 games. Garrett Wilson finally made an appearance. I had the unfortunate luck of going up against him in the home league, where he just went bananas because we get points for everything. So 13 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. You can imagine he had himself a pretty big day against me. So that was unfortunate. But, that's kind of the big news and notes, other than HN went out with a concussion. I think that was kind of the big star type injury. Everything else kind of seemed unscathed. But now we're coming into a week where, no Rams, no Chiefs, no who else? No Dolphins. Who else are we missing here, Derek? No Vikings. So there's definitely some fantasy power that are typically in starting lineups that are on a bye here this week. So just navigating through it, seeing what we need to do.
Yep, it'll be interesting. Yeah, as we kind of rock and roll through some of that, and it's interesting, right? Like, and we got talking about the Robert Saleh and all of that, kind of before the show a little bit. Yeah, it's one of those that's when some of those things happen, like you do kind of want to be the fly on the wall, right? To kind of see what those conversations really look like, and some of the, lack of a better term, some of the politics, I think, that probably went into some of those decisions there. So, but while we're kind of talking about the Jets and all of that, and them being the mess that we've seen so far, is this one of those that it's time to just kind of put that thought out there that Aaron Rodgers is no longer Aaron Rodgers, and maybe the sunset is required to be ridden off into?
Yeah, it seems like that a little bit. I think one thing that we can, rest on, think about, is typically Aaron Rodgers never did well with new receivers that were around him. It always took a year or two. And with him being injured last year, obviously, I'm not counting that one at all. So it's his first season with Garrett Wilson, trying to figure out Mike Williams, Travis Conklin. Hackett needs to figure out how to incorporate Brees Hall again. Like, he was so heavily used last year, and now the running game in general is not being used. Braylon Allen's being put in weird spots of the game, but he's being efficient, so I understand why they're putting him in. Um, it's just kind of off, but you can tell when Rodgers feels comfortable with someone, it makes it happen. Like, Alan Lazard continues to be a flex play. Um, in some formats, right? Just depending on how your league construct is, because there is a connection there. And if this hyper targeted Garrett Wilson thing goes forward, I think it helps him, but we need Rodgers to find the end zone, right? 3 interceptions in a game is not very common. Maybe he was jet lagged and didn't like being, in that London game for whatever reason. I think that's the first time he's been to London. So that there's always how the team preparation goes, excuse me, with leading into that game and going to London and everything else. We saw that with the Bills last year, right? We thought the Bills were going to wipe the floor with the Jaguars. And the Jags flipped the script and beat the Bills pretty handily in London. But you take that game back to the States, and I don't think anybody believes that that would happen again. So maybe there's some of that. Maybe I'm just making excuses, but I mean, there's so many better options right now at quarterback for fantasy purposes. I don't think you need to worry about Rodgers unless you're in a 2 quarterback format. If you're in a single quarterback league, there's no reason to have him. You can pick up, many other players and get the same or better results.
Right. I mean, the fact that he's got the third most passing attempts in the league so far, and yeah, the Jets are jetting at this point. That's probably the most apt way to say that. I do like this comment from Neil over on Twitch saying the Jets signing Aaron Rodgers and having no QB of the future just to fire their head coach 5 games is peak Jets activity.
Uh, yeah, pretty much, right? I mean, they were in win now mode, and we knew it coming into the season. I think maybe that's part of the reason I'm surprised that they got rid of Saleh, because the defense hasn't been the problem, right? The Jets defense has still been really stingy. They've been getting after the quarterback. They've been pretty sound. They didn't have a great half against the first half against the Vikings, but they really buttoned it down after that. Um, and these losses, I don't know that I could pin them on the defensive play. It has been the offense not being able to manufacture first downs and points when you need to. And they get down there, and then you have offensive line penalties that put them behind the chains, and then they're kicking field goals instead of trying to score touchdowns. So it's a multitude of things that, I mean, Saleh was, I guess, the scapegoat because he was the head coach, but I I don't know. I agree with you, Derek. I would have liked to been a fly on the wall because something doesn't smell right about this one.
Right. I mean, the fact that you hold a team to 10 points and you have a Hall of Fame quarterback and you can't find a way through 60 minutes of football to put more than 9 points on the board, like that's a problem.
No. Well, and I tell you what I do right now. Right now, if I were the Dallas Cowboys, I would fire Zimmer and bring in Robert Saleh right now, like today, and change the defensive structure of that team. Because the Steelers' offense is not a juggernaut by any means, but Saleh likes to blitz. Saleh likes to use the linebackers, in creative ways. All these things that the Cowboys on defense, once they get healthy, should be really good at. Mike Zimmer's defense is not working. Like, the Cowboys are getting gashed in the run game. When's the last time you saw that happen to a Robert Saleh led team, whether he was with the Niners or the Jets? They don't get gashed on the ground.
Right.
You know, they have Diggs, who is a different type of corner than Sauce Gardner, but still can play against that number one and really shut him down and funnel in towards the middle linebacker position. And then he has a player like Micah Parsons, once he gets healthy, to stick him kind of wherever he needs the gap. Like, there's so many great things that Mike Zimmer's a terrible coach. He has been a terrible coach for years. He's just part of the good old boys club. But I'm telling you right now, if I was Jerry Jones, I'd be like, this ain't working. I don't care if we just had a good win on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers. Mike Zimmer, you're gone. Robert Saleh, why don't you come to Big D, put on the star, and help turn our defense around?
Yeah, it could be a very interesting deal there. So, yeah, yeah, but no, very interesting to see how some of those things shake out there. So, um, let's go ahead and get into some of these other comments here and questions. And Terry over on YouTube asking, trade away Godwin, Connor for Bijan. The team is Hurts, AJ Brown, Debo, Kyron, Gibbs, Kincaid, Godwin. Benches Connor, Mostert, Warren, Kirk, Pittman, Conklin, Spears, and Ty Chandler. It is a full point PPR 10-team redraft.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
Yeah, and then
I
he
don't hate
has
that. Like, I think with as poor as Bijan's been playing, it might be a slight overpay, right? People are kind of going off the hype of Bijan, but it's not like he's been going gangbusters and has lived up to this top end of the first round pick once again, right? Last year is the back end, this year's the top end, but Bijan's a great player, um, but it's still just not quite all coming together, right? Like he is not this generation's version of like Marshall Falk, right? Like, and again, they're different skill sets, but a guy who can catch out of the backfield, a guy who can run the ball, 15 times a game, and he's getting, 5.5 yards a carry. He's showing brief flashes, and then they kind of just move away from it. So, I mean, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Like I like the pairing with Bijan and Kyron and Gibbs. Like it gives you a lot of room for flexibility as far as the running back position goes. Leaves you a little thin at wide receiver, but I think you can hammer the waiver wire.
He also has this one coming in saying same team and league trade away Kyron for Reek and Chase Brown. So at that point, you get, the first trade makes you a little thin. You get a little bit thicker here at that point, and then you really got wide receiving core of AJ Brown, Debo, and Tyreek. Running back room of Bijan, Gibbs, Mostert, and yeah, and Chase Brown and Warren. So
if you could do both those simultaneously, I do kind of like it. Like it gives you a ton of upside.
right,
I believe Tua is coming back.
I would agree with that.
So the fact that you can give away Kyron for Tyreek and a piece, I don't think that's a bad thing. Chase Brown has been continuing to kind of eat in that Bengals offense and earn himself some more playing time. So it's not a bad option to have, especially if Moss goes down, kind of the clear one there. Reek should be better getting into kind of the home stretch in the playoffs. So I don't mind that. So if you can just kind of stumble through the next couple weeks until we really know about Tua, I think I'd be willing to take that gamble.
Right. I mean, that's the type, though, pulling off those types of moves certainly sets you up for, for the upside that could be a monster come playoff time to try and deal with for sure.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting trade offer. I like it though.
Right. And then he's saying, or should he keep his team as is? If I can do both of those deals, I would do it.
Yes, I think that I would agree with that, Derek. If I'm doing one, I'm doing both. And if I can't do both, then I'm leaving it as is. Like I think that's fair.
So George Play over on YouTube saying, how did he get AJ Brown, Hurts, Kyron, and Gibbs? He's in a 4-team league. So George, what I'll tell you is Terry is a mover and a groover and a shake and baker when it comes to roster construction and management. I don't know that I've seen Terry sit pat on a roster for longer than about maybe a week. Like it seems like he's always got a deal in the works and is constantly making deals and doing that and always kind of going that, making this one move there. So it's and certainly Terry does bring some really interesting trade offers too out here. So yeah, definitely some good ones there. Roshan over on YouTube, trade Aaron Jones for Brian Thomas Jr. and Bigsby, or get Dobbins and Jacoby Myers instead.
Ooh. I think I'd rather have Brian Thomas Jr. and Bigsby.
That's where I'm leaning as well.
Yeah, I think I like that 2-for-1 just a little bit better. I mean, either way, you're either going for the wide receiver upside or you're going for the running back upside, right? So I think it just kind of depends on how you want to construct your roster. If you need more help at running back than you feel like you do at wide receiver, then Dobbins is probably the way to go. With Myers, it's you are kind of equal or need more help at wide receiver, I'd tell you Brian Thomas Jr. and Bigsby are the way to go.
Yeah, I like that.
At the end of the day, I trust Trevor Lawrence to throw the ball more than whoever's in Vegas. Now, Dobbins is probably going to get a more pure run. Right now, Tank Bigsby's averaging 8 yards per carry, which is leading the NFL. So his stats are semi-inflated. But we saw this out of Achane last year, where we kept thinking it was going to regress and come back down to earth, and it just didn't last year. So it's possible that lightning's striking again in back-to-back seasons where a running back just sees the game, just get the right play called at the right time for a whole season and has this crazy setup. It's possible. More often than not, you see him return back down to the rest of the pack, though.
Yeah. Alrighty. So Neil over on Twitch asking, would trade away Olave and Shakir for DK. Squad as it stands is Goff, Henry, James Cook, Almon St. Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., Scary Terry, Brock Bowers. Bench is CJ, Braylon, Bucky, Olave, Shakir, Wicks, and Brooks, and CMC.
Yes. I'd rather have DK.
Yes.
Especially with the starting lineup you already have. Like, yes. I want DK.
Yep. I agree. Rim over on Twitch, trade away CMC for AJ Brown.
Yes. Smash yes and move on.
Yes. Reese over on YouTube just traded away Pacheco and Ferguson for Jacobs, hurting at running back, and have Laporta. Seems like an easy decision for me.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. You had a weakness, you addressed it. It doesn't hurt you at tight end. Paid a bit of a premium for Jacobs because Pacheco's hurt and he's going to be down for a few more weeks. So I guess I get that, and like I said, it addressed a need. So there's nothing wrong with doing that and making your roster more competitive right now. Right, you got to survive these bye weeks and injuries and everything else. So you did what you had to do.
Right, and at that point too, right? Like even if Pacheco's back and healthy, like I could very much see them easing him back into that, right? Not coming back in and be the guy that we've seen, right? Like they're looking for a playoff run more so than they are,
especially if Hunt keeps grinding out the way he was.
Exactly. George Play over on YouTube. Should I trade Mason for Achane? My other running backs are Sparkley and Gibbs, 4-1, by the way. I would rather hang on to Mason at this point. Even if CMC returns, I don't think we're going to see CMC completely dominate that backfield like we've seen in years past. Like Mason's been doing a very good, very serviceable job there.
I'm going to take the opposite side of Derek on this one. I'm going to say grab Achane. Kind of the same thing as the Tyreek deal. They have a bye week this week, so we don't expect any lingering issues from the concussion. Yes, Mostert's healthy for the moment, but Tua's getting healthier too. And again, I think he's coming back. And this offense in Miami, for some reason, the way Tua runs, understands, operates this offense, he is the golden ticket. And when he's healthy, all things open up, right? safeties stayed back because they're worried about Tyreek and Waddle. There's less action in the box. It makes Achane more explosive. So Mason's definitely a better floor play, I think, week to week. But if you're going for end of season upside and to really make a difference come, the final stretch and into the playoffs, I think I'd rather have the Achane side.
Fair enough. All righty, let's hit up this one here. Jason, over on YouTube, will you trade away Stevenson and one of these wide receivers, whether it be Cooper, Sutton, Waddle, for Breece Hall?
Oh yeah, I'd give up Stevenson and Sutton if you could do that for Breece Hall. I mean, you might as well.
Yeah, maybe we'll see Breece and the Jets find a way to get him more than about 3 yards a carry. So couldn't hurt. Although that was one of the things when I was doing some of these things and looking at that. Just gonna say it. Breece Hall was better with Zach Wilson. So I'll leave that right there. Terry saying this one back to George and his 4-team comment. It looks like he drafted Hurts, Kyron, traded for Ken Walker, Pittman for Gibbs right after the draft, and recently traded Reek for AJ Brown straight up. So yeah, like I said, Terry's a mover and a groover when it comes to the trades there. Tone over on YouTube, is it possible to trade Deontay Johnson Wicks for Cup? If not, would a trade involving Olave and another player for Cup? Some of that comes down to your league and what the manager Cup is looking for, right? Like, would it be possible to trade it? Sure, but after the week that Wicks had, you probably have a hard time giving him to the waiver wire. Deontay Johnson, a little bit here and there, but I would tell you that if I'm the manager of Cup, it would take more than Deontay Johnson or Wicks to get that job done. Olave in a piece, maybe, but it depends on that other piece, and it really depends on that other piece.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with that. It's probably going to take Olave and a piece. And it might take, it could very well take Olave and Deontay. Like maybe they just feel like they need the help at receiver because, Cup went down and they've been piecemeal together. So, I mean, it might be something like that. If Cup's your guy, go get him. I'm crossing my fingers and waiting for him to come back to me in the home league. So that way I can get my true starting receiving core together. So I can't wait for that one. So I would definitely be pushing the envelope here, trying to pump the fact if I'm a Cup owner, right? I'm pumping the fact that this is the bye week. Like, he's not even missing a game. He's going to be back next week. So you might as well treat him as a starter right now, whether I know he's starting or not. That's the narrative I'm spinning if someone's coming after Cup, just to see if I can juice it up a bit more. So, but yeah, Olave and a piece starts the conversation, but the piece does matter.
Alrighty, and then Neil over on Twitch, do I go for Chase Brown or Tank Bigsby on the waivers? Already got one in for Juju and dropping Braylon. Between the two, I would lean Tank at this point. And I get it. There certainly could be some recency bias in there. Guy just delivering running back 1 performance overall there. But this is one that he has very much been steadily improving on snap share, and ETN certainly hasn't looked overly good. So there is some of that. But I would probably lean the Tank Bigsby over the Chase Brown waiver.
These guys are super close. Your projected, so half point PPR, right? Your projected points for the rest of the season, there is 4 points difference between Bigsby and Chase Brown, with Brown having the slight edge. So I think it's, do you want a piece of Cincinnati's offense or do you want a piece of Jacksonville's offense? Is really what it comes down to.
That's fair.
If I'm a Walker owner, or excuse me, if I'm a ETN owner, I want Bigsby because ETNs keeps fighting this shoulder issue. Like if he goes down, I want the whole backfield to myself. If I'm not an ETN owner, I probably want Chase Brown.
Okay. Fair enough. I like it. Reese over on YouTube saying that they've heard reports Pacheco might not even be back at all for the season or near the fantasy playoffs. Can't afford that risk right now. Yeah,
Nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
I certainly get it. So
No, there's nothing wrong with the trade. No,
yeah,
it's all good.
yeah. Tone over on YouTube saying that they drafted Kyler, Kyron, CMC, Laporta, Puka, Olave, London. They're 0-4, LOL, and don't have London anymore.
Hopefully you got proper compensation because his price tag went up after the Thursday night game.
Yep. That's very true. So I'd be interested to see what why London's not on the roster and what you got for that one. Luke over on YouTube saying that they made a trade in their 12-person PPR league. What do y'all think? Sent McBride, Shakir, and Tolbert for Laporta, Higgins, and Sermon.
So Sermon, I'm not a big Trey Sermon guy.
Honestly,
you have
I think
the upside. Laporta and Higgins have the upside.
Mm-hmm.
The weekly consistency, I think, is going to be with McBride, Shakir, and Tolbert. Like as crazy as Tolbert just finds ways to come down with the ball. Right. We saw it on a game-winning touchdown, came in crucial, and the Cowboys are desperately looking for another receiver to step up and take some pressure off of CeeDee Lamb. So that way defenses have to think twice. And if Tolbert continues to be useful like he was on Sunday night for the Cowboys, I think Tolbert might play a bigger role the rest of the season than what you think. So I don't hate it, right? I don't mind having Laporta and Higgins on my team. Sermon's just a depth piece, whatever. And maybe that's how you felt about Shakir and Tolbert, and that's why you traded him away. So you feel like you got two starters for one. And if that's the case, then so be it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. Terry over on YouTube saying, thanks for the advice, guys. Think that they're going to go with the first deal, which will turn the team into Hurts, AJ Brown, Debo, Kyron, Gibbs, Kincaid, Bijan as the flex. Yeah, I can see it. I still want that. I still want both deals, though, Terry. I'm not going to lie. Any other thoughts on that one?
No, I mean, the Debo thing scares me a little bit, but you got enough bang at running back that you can overcome some flex at your wide receiver too. So it's not the end of the world.
Right. Joe over on YouTube saying that they need a QB this week. Should I drop Jalen Warren to get Baker? Yes. The other running backs are CMC, Mason, Achane, Najee, and Tajay Spears. I would drop Jalen to pick up Baker.
Yeah. Najee and Jalen Warren are just going to split everything down the middle anyway. So take the guy who's healthy and keep him on your roster, being Najee. So yeah, drop Warren, pick up Baker. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's see here. Where's Baker? Baker. I mean, it is interesting. He's kind of middle in the pack, exactly middle of the pack as far as remaining like rest of season schedule or rest of season rankings for quarterback. Sitting right there at 15. So, but you take what you can get, and if he's sitting out there, you grab it.
Right. Yeah, I would. Baker is certainly been a come out the gate swinging, and I think we see some of that continue. I do think we see it return to earth a little bit, but it's not going to surprise me that when we look up the end of the season, you've still got a top 10 quarterback, and Jalen Warren, I think, is going to struggle to get into inside QB or running back 3 territory when the season's all said and done at this point. So, Tone over on YouTube. What about Laporta for Cup? He has Evans, Reed, JSN, Adams, Cup, and Otten at tight end. I have Kraft, so wouldn't mind selling Laporta.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to trade Laporta, Cup's fair value for Laporta.
Yeah.
Top 3 tight end, arguably, right? And so there's nothing wrong with that. Definitely take the injury risk with Cup, but you could do that.
Right. Yeah. I think I would probably do that as well. Be interesting to see what that if they counter back on that one. But Neil over on Twitch saying think CMC is going to be back week 7 if the Niners drop this game to Seattle since he's helped Brock out a lot in the passing game.
You have a better chance of Hurricane Milton flipping back around and hitting Arizona than you do CMC playing week 7.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of. Yeah, I don't think
that sounds really harsh. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. And even if he comes back again, shell of what we thought we were going to get out of him, like a third. So he's not going to be the number 1, number 2, number 3 overall pick that we drafted him to be. Like, we need to consider him in the same light that we look at. I mean, trying to think of a good comparison here at the moment.
Well, I mean, the problem is that with CMC, right? You drafted him to be CMC, and the problem is when he returns, you're likely going to be getting more of the James Conner, that kind of level of running back from a fantasy perspective out there, right? Like, I think we're going to see them slow play this tremendously. It wouldn't surprise me that we see this thing play out to the point until CMC is truly healthy on this one. That's, we see Jordan Mason splitting that backfield 50-50.
And CMC has nothing to do with the Niners giving up double-digit leads in the second half.
Right. So,
yes, he can run the ball and grind the clock a little bit, but the defense has to step up. That Niners defense has been very bleak compared to what we've come to expect here the last couple of years. And when they get up by 10 points in years past, they shut the door. They didn't need to do anything else. Now you're still pushing, right? If you're the Niners, Brock Purdy and company, you don't get to coast anymore. Like, you still have to make plays and drive the ball down the field.
Right. So,
and this game against I think the Seahawks are going to give the Niners everything they want and then some.
Yeah, and we'll get into that when we touch on that Thursday night breakdown here in a little bit. But I would 100% agree with that. Kels over on YouTube, Garrett Wilson, JSN, Wicks, pick one PPR.
I'm taking Wilson. You play the hot hand, you play the talent, right? Wilson's the most talented one in the group. That's who you're playing.
Agreed. Tone saying that they traded London for Ayuk right before his blow up.
Oh, I think I remember you telling me. So Ayuk didn't do you dirty. He had a decent game for the Niners. London had a slightly better game, but Ayuk didn't do you dirty. So, tomato.
Right. Terry saying the best ad for full point PPR: Lockett, Leggett, Sutton, Lazard, or Wicks.
Woof.
That's putting it mildly. Man, much as I don't want to say Lazard, that might be the answer.
It might be for right now. Yeah. I mean, Leggette's interesting if they can have a quarterback, or him just picking up that injury worries me a little bit, right? Sutton, he's not an alpha. Sutton's an amazing number two, but he's just not an alpha. So I don't think that's necessarily the answer. Lockett's been 2 or 3 on that Seattle team going up against the Niners this week. Maybe, but maybe not. And then Wicks, we saw him blow up 2 weeks ago, and then lay an egg last week. I expect Dobbs to be back and kind of get his attitude in check. So he's going to get, maybe that helps Wicks, because then he's seeing, kind of this off coverage, if you will, and teams are more worried about Dobbs and Reed. So maybe you can make an argument for Wicks, but hell, it might be Lazard. He's the one who has the best chemistry with his current quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's probably the case. I don't feel good about any of those options, but Lazard would be the guy I'd be adding if I had to out of that group. Kel's over on YouTube saying if you're 0-4, your whole year is shifted to getting that first win. Don't give up. Yeah.
Gotta get the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, and then Binking over on YouTube. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate Tracy value this week in DFS? Let's see.
I mean, to me, it's pretty damn low. Like it seems like we're going to see Singletary come back.
Yeah. I mean, the matchup's not great. It's okay, but it's not great.
Meh. Like I'm trying to think who I'd rather play. I think I'd rather play Roshan against the Jags.
Mm-hmm.
I think Algier is a guy who interests me, should be costing slightly less, I think, against Carolina, who just gives it up against the run.
Tajay Spears wouldn't. I think I'd probably
that one's interesting, right? Both get receiving work, right? Tracy used to be a wide receiver, so they both get receiving work.
That matchup against Indy is juicy.
Yeah. I mean, meh, I think would be my answer. So if I had to rate meh, I would tell you like 2.5.
Yeah,
Maybe 3. Like, it's not terrible. Like, it's all where you want to spend the money. But I don't think running the ball is going to be a high priority in this game. Like, for the first quarter, maybe. And I could see this game just turn into a, huck it, chuck it, and go for it.
right.
On both sides.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of right there with you in that kind of 3 to 4 range, somewhere in there. Binkin was responding back to Joe on that Baker, saying that got a decent floor if you're streaming QB this week. He's also had a pretty good ceiling in a lot of games this week or this season, and I'd be willing to drop that and have him be the starter until needing to pivot otherwise. Joe over on YouTube, follow up to the Baker Warren question. Geno Smith also available. Should I get Baker or Geno 6-point QB touchdowns?
I mean, this week I want Baker.
Yeah. I mean, the matchup is probably better. Geno probably has the better matchup of the two. but Baker's been really good outside of that Denver matchup.
He has been, right? I mean, and not comparing the two. The Saints gave up well over 300 yards to Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
Well over 300 yards to Mahomes, and that was with Derek Carr actually playing the vast majority of the game and being a professional representative at quarterback. So now that they're not going to have him, I see it, Tampa having a ton of opportunities with the ball in their hand.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I would still go with the Baker this week. Terrence over on YouTube. Suggestions on the starting lineup this week. Burrow or Purdy, Connor, Javonte Williams, Chase, Cooper, Thomas, Brian Thomas Jr., Ferguson, the Broncos, and Santos at kicker. Should I be starting JMO over Cooper or Brian Thomas Jr. this week?
So Burrow for me. Um,
Yeah, we're in lockstep on that one. I'd go Burrow as well.
so I'd be starting JMO over. I would start JMO over Cooper. Brian Thomas Jr. Yeah, I'd start JMO over Cooper. Brian Thomas Jr. is interesting, right? Like Nico getting injured was a bit of a bummer. But obviously that deep pass that he caught against Buffalo is sorry, this is the Bears. Sorry, the Jags are playing the Bears. My apologies. I still think I'm going Brian Thomas Jr. Like Deshaun's been so bad. It just is not fun to watch him play the quarterback position. And I think Thomas gets you more upside than Cooper does.
Right. Yeah, I could see that, and on all of those guys are really close. And when I'm kind of looking at it, I think when we look up, if we were to look them up, they're probably within a point to half point of each other, and as far as projections go. But I think I'm going to lean Jameson Williams. Right, that Detroit Dallas game certainly has the ability to have to get more points to it. Jacksonville, Chicago, and that very well could be a low scoring type of affair there. But yeah, I'd lean JMO myself on that one. All righty. Joe over on YouTube, follow up to the Baker Ward question. Should I pick up Geno Smith or Baker for this week? That one still leaning on the Baker side of things. Neil saying that he essentially traded Wilson for him. I'm not sure which one that's in reference to. I know that Neil's had a couple of questions, so, but I'm just not recalling that one. If that strikes any thoughts there.
No, I was going back through and looking, and I'm not seeing. You might be talking about CMC.
Okay. Let's see. Binkin saying talking to Joe, saying that he thinks Geno could be in a more competitive game, being that Carr is out and the Saints Bucks defense could eat for some, which would script less need for Baker to sling it. Maybe, or we could actually see, Spencer Rattler come in and the Saints actually figure out a way to go. Oh, we have Chris Olave as a wide receiver that's in our uniform, and find a way to get him more than one target before the fourth quarter. I don't know. It's a weird concept. You put the ball in your playmakers' hands and let your playmakers try and make plays. And typically good things happen for football when you're able to put the ball in your playmakers' hands and let them go make plays. I don't know. It's a weird concept.
Tampa doesn't want to run the ball either. Like they're at their best just letting Baker throw it 35 times a game.
Right. Yeah. The experiment of Rachaad White running into his offensive line, or Bucky Irving, being a little bit more efficient. But yeah. Kel's asking JSN, JMO, Chuba Hubbard, Wicks. Got to pick one.
JMO. I want a piece of this Detroit Cowboys game. JMO.
Okay. As much as I want to lean on the Chuba effect there, that's a tougher matchup that he's gotten. So I think I'm going to side with you and say the JMO side of it there. Isaac Wright saying drop Zach Charbonnet for Tank Bigsby.
Sure.
I can see it.
Especially if you need a flex play.
Right. Isaac saying that they've got London and Mooney on the bench. Should I drop Fields or Richardson for Kirk? That's a little interesting there. Would you drop Justin Fields or Anthony Richardson to pick up Kirk Cousins?
I mean, I should tell you drop Richardson for Kirk Cousins. Is what I should tell you to do.
Right. Yeah, I don't know that I've got a differing opinion on that. Problem is with Kirk Cousins, right? Like the two games that we've seen, multiple touchdown performances. So some of that's just going to depend upon what you think on how many multiple touchdown performances we're going to get going forward on that. But I don't know that Anthony Richardson is going to put up much in the anyway. I think I'm probably there with you. If I'm going to drop one, it would be Richardson at this point. Derek over on YouTube, 10-point full PPR trade, 2 wins, 3 losses, record 8 seed, top 6 make the playoffs. They have Justin Jefferson getting Bijan, Debo, ETN, Anthony Richardson, Amari Cooper, giving AJ Brown, Puka, Ramadre, Zach Moss. I want the AJ Brown, Puka, Ramadre option on that. I think.
Realistically, I think I'd try and counter and not take Debo to keep Puka.
Yeah.
I think. Like
Derek, I tell you what, hit us up with
I'm not terrible.
Because depending upon what else is there as far as running backs and if some of that goes, like that could certainly sway me on this one. But Derek, hit us up with the full roster.
Jefferson getting Bijan and ETN. So again, ETN has not been what we thought he would be.
Bijan has not either.
Puka's been hurt. Ramondre's meh. Zach Moss is meh. I don't hate it. Screw it. I mean, you're 2-3. You got to you're trying to do something, right? You're trying to shake it loose. You're trying to make a move. I don't hate it.
They also have Achane and Chuba.
Yeah. There we go.
So you're saying you would
and Bijan after this week to pair with Jefferson and Debo, and then you're just playing around with your flex, whether it's Chuba or ETN. I mean, Chuba's going to have his workload eaten into. It may not disappear, but eaten into here going forward.
Right.
So protect yourself. So you got Bijan, HN. Yeah, I don't hate this. I really don't.
Okay. Terrence saying start 2 this week. JMO, Brian Thomas and Brian Thomas Jr., Amari Cooper, Tolbert. Got to pick 2 to start.
Do you want upside or do you just want safety? Because that's going to change my thought process. JMO either way.
Right.
So JMO, absolutely. So now we're just trying to start one between Brian Thomas Jr., Amari Cooper, and Jalen Tolbert. I would tell you Brian Thomas Jr. by the slimmest of margins, then Tolbert, then Cooper, because of the matchups this week.
Yeah, I think I would lean that way as well. I was kind of debating on who I'd have number 2, number 3 there, and I originally kind of had it JMO, Tolbert, Brian Thomas Jr. and then Cooper. But yeah, I think with the matchup wise, you lean the other direction there. So
you could do that, right? Especially like DFS wise, JMO and Tolbert, right? Run it back on both sides and see what you can do.
right. So yeah, I like it. So that's how we would rank that. Terrence is JMO, Thomas, Tolbert, Cooper in that order. All in one show. Hey guys, can I get some help on who I could possibly pick up and drop for on waivers? Looks like we've got the options down here. Burrow, Gibbs, Jacobs, Flowers, London, Kittle, Pollard is the lineup. Bench is Richardson, Waddle, Higgins, Ford, Swift, Kelsey, and Wicks. Also, who should they plug into the starting lineup this week? So I guess let's kind of look and see that one. Burrow's the starting quarterback. Done. Move on. I'm rocking London in there. I could see rocking Kittle over Kelsey just due to kind of how that would shake out there. But if you wanted to put up Travis Kelsey instead of George Kittle, I wouldn't mind that either. So coin flip
I
that
think
one for
that's
me.
where I would go. It's Kelsey over Kittle.
Yeah. I mean, that's since Rashee Rice is missed time, Kelsey has certainly seen his workload improve.
So I would go Burrow, Gibbs, Swift, London, Higgins with Pollard in my flex. Kelsey at tight end. That's how I would do it.
All right. I like it. Eagles, Bucks, Colts, or Denver's defense special teams for this week. I feel like you almost just rock Denver with how dominant they've been lately.
Denver's been super dominant. If for whatever reason you're worried about Denver, I'll take the Eagles against Cleveland this week. Cleveland's been terrible.
Right.
But yeah, Denver 1, Eagles 2.
I like it. Saying that they've got Burrow. Should they go for Kirk? Can I drop Anthony Richardson? Would you drop Anthony Richardson to pick up Kirk Cousins?
Could go with Joe Burrow, sure.
Okay, there we go.
I don't even know that you need to carry a second one. Like, if those are the options that are sitting out there, drop him. You can look at adding like a Darnell Mooney or, a Tank Bigsby to your lineup because Ford's going to be irrelevant here pretty quick. Give yourself some skill position depth at running back or receiver.
All righty. Harry over on YouTube asking Jonathan Taylor and Zay Flowers for Kyron Williams.
Yeah, I think I'd do that. JT has a high ankle sprain. Passing touchdowns were there last week for Lamar, but they have not been throwing the ball as much. They haven't needed to. Kyron's going to be heavily involved in this offense, regardless of whether they're winning, losing, who's at quarterback. Yeah, and he's having a better year than what I thought he was going to have already. So I would tell you, take the Kyron side.
Yeah, I would agree, especially with the Colts and what this kind of back half looks like and the question marks there. I'd rather have the Kyron side on that as well. Mr. Wumbo saying that they get why they have to change the designation from out to questionable or a doubtful, but it's very annoying when you have players that are 100% aren't going to play, make them doubtful because it's not confirmed, and then you have to drop somebody to make a roster updates on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
NFL gamesmanship right there.
Yes. And gotta love it when it spills over into the fantasies. I like this one here. Mr. Wumble saying, feel like the out designation should last past waivers. Yeah. I could see that. If only we could do that.
Well, if your waivers are Wednesday night into Thursday. Oh, never mind. I was just talking about me. If your waivers are Monday night into Tuesday, that's how you get around it.
Yeah. Alrighty. Kels over on YouTube. Dobbs, Roshan Johnson, and the flex. Got to pick one.
Right now, it's Roshan. There's no guarantee that the suspension's going to lift.
That's
Now,
true.
if the suspension from the Packers lifts, then I'm going to flip it. Then I want Dobbs.
Agreed. I think if both are playing, both are good to go. Dobbs certainly. Dobbs, I think, has both the higher ceiling and higher floor between the two. Terrence over on YouTube tried to pick up Bigsby on waivers, but not if Dare Gumbawale has a better start over Javonte Williams if Mixon doesn't play.
No, I'd rather have Javonte.
Yeah, but if the question's between Javonte and Dare, I'd take Javonte. Okay. Kel's over on YouTube asking Hurts or Jake Ferguson.
Fergie.
Yep. Alrighty. Julian over on YouTube just traded likely for JK. Got Brees with JK and now Ferguson as the tight end. Thoughts?
I like it.
Yeah. Harry over on YouTube, which side do you like more? The Lamar, Amari Cooper, James Cook, and Travis Kelce, or Jalen Hurts, Zay Flowers, Jonathan Taylor, Trey McBride?
Flowers, JT, and McBride.
Yeah, I would agree on that one.
Not by much.
It's close.
It's really close for me. Really close. Well, hold on. Lamar Jackson, Amari Cooper, James Cook, and Travis Kelce. So we back out. Kelce or McBride, James Cook or JT, Jay Flowers. Actually, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to change my mind back. Lamar. I want the Lamar side.
Yeah. I mean, this one here is super close. I think I still lean on the Jalen Hurts, Zay Flowers, JT, and Trey McBride side of things, but it is super close. And really for me, it comes down to which position you need to get better at, right? Like if it's quarterback, Lamar's having a better season than Jalen. Wide receiver side, I think I'd lean the Zay Flowers side. Running back, when healthy, I think JT. Tight end, I'd rather have the McBride side. So certainly kind of comes down to which way you need to rock and roll through there. Kel's over on YouTube. Do we hold Jordan Whittington?
I would. I mean, he makes more sense than a lot of guys that are on rosters here at the moment. And I think he's going to continue to see more and more snaps from McVay and Matt Stafford.
And all in one let us know that Kelsey was on bye when we were talking about that one. So yes, it would be Kittle. Harry over on YouTube, which side do you like more? Okay, we just answered that one. Is Burrow a must-start rest of the season, or am I still playing matchups between him and Purdy? If he is, should he trade Purdy for a skill player?
I mean, I think we'd like to consider Burrow a must-start for the rest of the season, but I guess he's a must-start as long as everyone's healthy on that team.
Yeah.
So I think I'd keep Purdy for another couple weeks. See how it goes.
Yep.
You got a while before the trade deadline.
Eric on YouTube. Jaden Reed for Jalen Hurts. Straight up thoughts. They are loaded at receiver. I mean, if you're loaded at receiver, I can certainly see it. Eric, I'd be curious to see who the other quarterback is on the roster at that point too. But and when we're talking loaded at wide receiver, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily mind this deal, and I could certainly see it if it's going to improve the roster and improve at the quarterback position. But at the same time, if yeah, it really kind of depends too on the rest of my roster construct and what that league looks like. But I don't hate the deal.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd like to see the rest of the room.
Yep. Julian over on YouTube, drop AR for Kirks. They have field starting right now, but they heard Russ might get cleared today. At that point, I don't know that. I don't know. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yes, I would drop. I would drop Richardson for Kirk.
Okay. Mr. Wumbo, over on YouTube, think it'd be fair to send Pittman and Sermon for Pickens in PPR. The Pickens owner has Taylor.
I mean, if he wants that many Colts on his roster,
Right.
I'm not opposed to it. Now, again, Pittman's target share is still really good. So it's not like he's not getting opportunities. Just some of them have not been on target opportunities. Pickens is going to be a big play guy. You're not going to see him come down with 8-9 catches in a game. That's not how Pittsburgh's going to run their offense. So, dealer's choice. I have the two pretty much side by side as far as rankings go. So, neither one particularly bothers me. It's really however you want to construct your roster at that point. I'd tell you to flip a coin.
Fair enough. Yeah, I can see it. I think it's in the realm of fair to send that offer and at least try to get that conversation going. Terrence, if they can't get Bigsby, do they go after Ty Chandler over Tobert? Running back roster, Kyron Williams, Connor Mostert, Jamal Williams. Wide receivers, they have Chase, Cup, Adams, J-Mo Thomas, and Cooper.
Yes, I would. At least for the short term.
B. Sylvie over on YouTube was offered Brees and Pickens for Devontae Adams, redraft half point PPR. Yes. You wouldn't take Brees and Pickens over Devontae Adams?
Oh no, sorry, that side, yes.
Yeah, if
Yes.
I'm getting the Brees and Pickens, I'm smashing yes and moving on.
Yes, sorry. I was reading it backwards. Yes, I want the Brees and Pickens side.
All right. Chandler over on YouTube, trade Stroud, Ford, and Rashad White for Bijan 6-point passing 6-point passing TD, full point PPR. Still have Purdy and can upgrade running back 2 slot. Hopefully Bijan can get going in the second half. Thoughts on that one?
It's a massive overpay. Massive overpay. Like, I would tell you Stroud for Bijan straight up, and then yeah, you can do that. But why give up all of your depth? Like again, Ford's a throwaway piece. So call it Rashad White and CJ Stroud for Bijan. And even at that, I'd tell you it's an overpay for what Bijan's done right now. Stroud for Bijan should be more than enough straight up.
Right. Like to put that in perspective, Zach Moss has put up more fantasy points for fantasy rosters than Bijan has at this point in the season.
I'd do it if it was Purdy. Like if we switched Stroud and Purdy, I think I'd do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Mr. Wumbo was saying thank you for the Pittman trade advice there, and then all in one saying prioritize for. I'm assuming that would be waivers in order between Bigsby, Dwaddle, Dobbs, Spears, and Roshan.
I'd flip Roshan and Spears and then have it in the order in which you listed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think that I would change much there. I mean, I might put Dwaddle over Bigsby just from the standpoint that we've seen more out of that throughout this point in the season. But that would be, I do agree with the Roshan over Spears. And then potentially I might look at the Dwaddle over Bigsby. But yeah, I think I'm probably pretty close to where you're at on that one. Eric saying the 10-team roster is Fields, Chase, AJ Brown, Tyreek, Ferguson, Kenneth Walker, Stevenson, Reed with W. Robinson, B. Allen, and Madison. Wanted to trade Reed for Hurts. Yeah, I would say that is a pretty stacked running back room or wide receiver room.
Yeah, might as well.
So, yeah, I don't have a problem with trading Reed for Hurts in that case.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think you could live with that. Upgrade at quarterback.
right. Alrighty, let's hit up the Thursday night game here real quick and touch on that one, and then we're gonna call it a night. And so if you have any questions, comments, things like that, let's get those out in the let's get those out there so we can touch on those and all of that. So for the Thursday night game, we got San Francisco going up to Seattle. The Niners are favored by 3.5. The over under on this one, 48.5. Thoughts on this one?
I'm going to take Seattle to keep this within 3. And with that, I'm going to take the over on this Thursday night game. I think we're going to see some points here. Neither defense is living up to the billing at the moment.
Yeah, you're not kidding. This has certainly been a very interesting, Thursday night kind of slates here, with a lot of these things being that the the under was almost a, you could just go under and call it a day and be done with it. So I do like that over call. I do like Seattle, right? Like San Francisco is certainly not looking like the San Francisco that I think we all expected to see coming into this season on the defensive side of the ball. So I do think that we get some good points in this one, and to go with good points typically leads from quarterbacks getting some good yardage. One of the props that I really liked was Geno Smith to go over his 248.5 passing yards.
Right on. I'm going to take Debo over 55.5 receiving yards. I think the Niners realize they need to get him more involved, and that will probably cure some of the offensive woes that they've had there in the second half. Like, you use all your weapons here a little bit. Don't get short-sighted.
So, yeah, I like that one. I like that thought. So, well, guys, I do believe that's going to take us down here to the end of it. We'll be back on Friday night when we start going through the fantasy football huddle with the Friday Night Lights and the Bet Set Snap show when we go live at 11 p.m. Eastern on Friday. But I do believe that that's going to do it for us. Any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Keep grinding, guys. Right? I mean, the waiver wire is getting a little thin. Most of these guys, you guys have some pretty decent waiver wire options. Our home league is definitely picked pretty thin here at the moment. Some of my others are picked completely clean, just how the formats are with the starting lineups or roster size or whatever. But some decent options there to at least provide some immediate help to get through some bye weeks. So hopefully everyone's able to come out unscathed, maybe a little bit healthier after bye weeks, and we can kind of start getting ready to grind it out for the teams that have had a bye here in week 5 and now week 6.
Yeah, I like it. Last questions and comments here, and we're gonna call it a night. So, B. Sylvia, if the league is aggressive with an allotment of 240, what fab on Cousins and Juju?
So Juju, I'm not the biggest believer in. I'd throw $5 on Juju, and if you really need the quarterback help, I think you could go 15, 18 on Kirk Cousins, and still leave yourself for some more than enough wiggle room to play with it down the road.
Yeah. Okay. I like that thought. Mr. Wumbo saying 0-12 to the moon. Well, if you can get it off the ground, you can get it to the moon, I'm sure. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us tonight. Do appreciate everybody tuning in and chatting. And it's always a lot of fun interacting and getting all the questions, comments, all of that going. So do appreciate everybody, chiming in there and tuning in. And we'll be back on Friday for that fantasy football huddle, the Friday night lights, the bet set snap, all those good things. We'll be back 11 p.m. Eastern. Do us a favor, head over to the YouTube, click that like, click that subscribe button, ring the bell, get those notifications when we go live. But that's going to do it for us tonight. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. We'll see Alex next week. And that'll do it for us. Have a good one. Be safe. Toodaloo.